Welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us for another live episode of Conversations with Michael. And of course, we are streaming live from our home studio in the beautiful Willamette Valley of the state of Oregon. And after one of the driest summers on record, we're now enjoying a real steady downpour of rain, but it feels really good. It really feels really good, and it feels really good to be with all of you in this way. I always look forward to these monthly sessions. Normally we would start the show with a short video introduction followed by our upcoming events, but our copyrighted content just doesn't seem to get past Facebook security, at least initially. So now we just get right into it. But if you want to stay connected to all of our upcoming events, feel free to watch the short video that we put on at the end of today's show. And for those of you that are watching on our website, I hope you're enjoying some of the changes we made to our site. I started to feel at the beginning of this year, it was time to refresh the site. It's been pretty much dominant by a lot of nature images and a lot of banners and headers. And so I felt inspired, based in part on some of the feedback we received over the years, to do something different. I wanted to make it easier for all of you to find what you're looking for. So I started with the interior pages, which now have a very clean and simple feel to them. Then a few months ago, I created a new homepage. Took a few attempts to see if it felt right, but I think the latest version is good to go. And finally, last month, I finally added, which most websites have, but I've refused to post, an online storefront for all of our work. The storefronts that I've seen just seem to be so uncreative, kind of boring. But I think you're going to like this. That just went live this week, in fact. You can now preview and purchase all of our programs and services on this one page. We'll be adding new content every month, including some audio files from some of our workshops that, they just didn't offer the quality we're looking for in the video content. So all of our audio files all come with an unlimited lifetime access. That means as long as I'm alive. So feel free to check it out. And of course, we always welcome and encourage your feedback. It helps us to better serve you. Let's start today's session with our collective deep breath. Allowing all the energies that are here today to help support your choice to experience the presence of your soul inside of these beautiful physical bodies. Very good. We created Conversations with Michael not to feel a need to gather as a group. If any of you have been following our work, you know that would represent more of those codependent type of energies. We gather to act as supports to each other, as sovereign creators of our own experience. And from our experience, you can be both sovereign and share with other masters. Imagine that. So on that note, I, Robert, gladly step back and allow Michael to step forward, but not as a channeled message. Like everything else that needed to be reset during this lifetime, my own relationship to a variety of other non-physical beings, it too has shifted over the years, which I believe is a natural byproduct of allowing the presence of our soul to be present in our life. The wisdom that has helped to support us over all these lifetimes from a variety of different incredible beings, we've discovered it also resides within us. So Michael and I made an agreement almost 10 years ago when I stopped channeling for Archangel Michael and Yeshua. I agreed to allow both my soul, called Kethra, and the presence of Michael to now be a part of my day-to-day reality, which now gives us the freedom to express this triangle of identities and energies in a variety of ways. It took a big leap of faith for Robert, my human personality, to accept this new relationship and to not create yet another type of separation by calling this expression channeling. Because that which we once channeled for now plays such a vital part inside this new human soul relationship. Take a deep breath there. As I, Robert, once again gladly step back. It took a while for me as Robert to gladly step back. I have to admit there was a lot of kicking and screaming on my part to allow this to be what it is today. And then we simply allow Michael to step forward. It's actually quite simple. It's actually quite graceful. And indeed, it is I, Michael, in service to your own unique human soul experience. But I'm not so sure all those other groups I work with will celebrate this shift in channeling. With this group, we are speaking to all of you that are here today. Many of you now embrace, perhaps for the first time, the wealth of wisdom that has always been inside of you. Now using the language of the heart, many of you can now feel that divine part of you communicating with you on a daily basis. Very few, however, have allowed the soul to speak without it being filtered by your own human personality, the human self. So for the most part, a lot of you just don't see the benefit of exposing the wisdom of your soul in relationship with and to the rest of humanity. So we offered a possible solution to your dilemma: to live in this world with a heartfelt desire to connect deeply with these physical bodies, like the roots in a tree, grounding yourself with this planet, with this physical reality, while at the same time to not be of it. Some of you still have some issues about feeling trapped in these bodies, confined to this physical reality. So we get it. The grounding part is still a work in progress. But that is nothing compared to not being of it. We aren't suggesting that you deny yourself all the joy that is a natural part of being human. We are, however, inviting you to experience being human in a radically new way. One that is different from what is known to your human family. There are but a few who have walked this path before you. Robert likes to refer to the life of Yeshua, not because he has become kind of like a spiritual rock star on this planet. It has more to do with their friendship and their mutual respect for each other. But it was Yeshua who spoke so clearly about not being of it. The world you are living in today is radically different from the one that he inhabited over 2,000 years ago. It is very different from the one all of you inhabited just 20, 30 years ago. And from our perspective, in just 10 years from now, it will appear to have been taken yet another leap. So this whole notion of not being of it can mean different things to different people. For some, the use of a variety of digital tools can appear to literally transport you to what appears to be another reality, another world. Other worlds, realms, or dimensions indeed do exist. But the one we are encouraging you to explore lacks certain qualities that make it less appealing to a lot of beings, physical or otherwise. We are encouraging all of you to reclaim your own presence, to start getting really, really familiar with how it feels to just be you, to just be you in capital letters. We look forward to exploring this new human experience in our upcoming iSpirit course, because it is such a rare experience for most beings, human or otherwise. Even though every facet of the original self was given its own unique presence. Believe it or not, the original self didn't want to duplicate itself. Those are called robots. Its joy is to be inside endless versions of itself with your name on it, without any conditions, any agenda, or any interference. And the best part for those that we are speaking to here today, no rules. Oh yes, we know who we're speaking to, indeed. Most of you are already quite familiar with our version of the story of creation, so we won't repeat what has already been shared. But along the way to being a sovereign identity, you stopped identifying with your own unique presence. You started to perceive yourself as being separate from the original self. You didn't fall from grace, nor did you get kicked out of heaven, but collectively, you started to create your own version of reality that perceived itself not as individuated beings coexisting with each other, but as disconnected beings who now relied on each other for support. And that type of reliance is what gave birth to all those spiritual families. It really doesn't matter how or why you made such a choice, because that too just adds more fuel to this feeling of being disconnected. But what is important to realize is that all beings, no matter their own state of consciousness, started to feel pulled into a collective reality called duality. Perceiving opposites of yourself in the form of male or female, light and dark, here in your human experience between the human or the angel. All those can be a beautiful experience. But as we all discovered, it can also trigger some very unexpected feelings. So in a nutshell, creation experienced itself as individuated versions of the original self now inside a dualistic system of reality. That over time became very, very polarized. What does that have to do with being on this planet but not of it? Because this is the planet where all beings from all parts of creation would come to experience a new way of being. Unfortunately, only a few have allowed themselves to experience the freedom to be a sovereign creator. They discovered here on Earth, where everything happens in slow motion, something truly profound. They stopped trying to find the missing piece to this cosmic puzzle. Just long enough to experience something that they had almost forgot. They experienced their own innocence. Take a breath there. That awakened inside of them the awareness of a very ancient presence. And then they started to allow it, one day at a time, to coexist with the part of them that had always been doing life. They discovered, as many of you have, that the being part of you kind of feels like home. And in a way, it is. But it's not your original home called the kingdom. It's your original unique presence, what we call the soul or eternal self. The more time these fellow masters devoted themselves to feeling this being part inside of them, the more synchronized their life became. It was as if the elements of Earth were now communicating with them. They began to experience life on Earth as being magical. Imagine that. But it didn't stop there. Their life also appeared to be a direct reflection of their own state of consciousness. They went from feeling that life can happen to you at any given moment without your permission to something else entirely. Creation for them now happens because of you, with this earth as your witness. But not only as a witness. Earth became a mirror, offering a reflection of this inner world that was supported by your beingness. In a way, you could say that the doing part of all beings had dominated the affairs of creation for a very, very long time. And you brought that story with you to this planet and played it out in countless ways. It's called now your human history. And what these masters before you discovered was a whole other world inside your being part. But it was not managed or controlled by the collective doing parts of creation. Better than that, they discovered that it couldn't be managed or controlled by anything, even their own doing part, because it represented the presence of the original self with your name on it. So after all these lifetimes, including all these years in this lifetime, many of you have come to the same realization. The doing part of you will never find a missing piece, but it sure was fun trying to find it. Or was it? really was it? And does it really matter? So can we just skip the whole beating yourself up phase in all this, becoming realized once again, becoming enlightened? Because we still see a lot of you getting pulled into this. But you have also noticed every time you go there, you no longer feel your own presence. So to not be of it means that you're no longer willing to define yourself only as the doing part of you. But you're also feeling inside this human experience that when these parts of you do come together, something truly magical occurs. It can feel like you've been transported to yet another reality while still living inside these physical bodies. Robert doesn't spend a lot of time and energy sharing with any of you his own personal experiences. He just doesn't see any benefit to sharing his blissed out adventures. He is, however, more than willing to share how I, Michael, and his soul, Kethra, ended up being a part of his life in the form of what we call the teachings of Michael. We actually put several names up for a vote. But the teachings of Bob just lacked a certain something to it. Not sure what it is. The teachings of Bob? Even though it's the only name you can spell backwards and still end up with Bob? This really isn't about myself, Kethra, or Robert. This is all about you, my friends. You allow us to share our joy for reuniting these parts inside of us. And for that, thank you. Thank you. Because our joy for finally coming back together, it can't be controlled. It can't be managed. Thank you. You serve us by allowing us to serve you. We hope you get that. Truly, we hope you fully get that. Because what some of you have also discovered inside of this reunion has, well, it has radically changed your own life. Your soul and eternal self can't be managed or controlled by any other being. Many of you have realized that you now exist free of any doubt, any worry, and any concern, just by living inside your own presence, by keeping your own presence at the front of your life. Your reality is now supported by your willingness to be yourself, expressed as your own energy in motion. There is nothing outside of you that isn't a reflection of some part within you. You discovered what a beautiful gift this thing called creation truly is. So many of you are beginning to discover how incredibly fluid it is when your doing parts allow the being parts to now coexist. You've discovered that creation is willing to adapt itself as a living playground for whatever you want to experience, including to be the original self with your name on it, expressing itself in the form of your energy. So we're inviting each of you to take another step in the direction of allowing your own being to play a more significant role in your life. Because as you do, this part of you just naturally begins to unfold, much like a flower. You don't have to try to make it blossom or even understand how it blossoms. But let's be honest here. Some of you still seem to enjoy playing that game. Your being part, my friends, already knows without knowing how it knows that it all works out. Go ahead and ask the original self, how do you create? Go ahead, we'll pause here as you address the original self. How do you create? Now, what did it say? What did you hear? What did you feel? Perhaps something like, it just is. It just is. So the doing part in service to the being part takes a deep dive into the fine particles of creation and discovers the role that hydrogen and carbon and a few other things play in all of this. And in turn, shares that realization with your being part. What does she say? Ask her, the original self. What does she say? Indeed. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I wasn't aware of the finite details of being me. So our work with all of you continues to be in support of this beautiful reunion between all parts of you that just got lost inside duality. It's okay. Everyone played in it. Nobody was excluded from that. All of you have chosen to do creation a really big favor by staying on this planet, but not being of it. Not of it. As a living example of what is possible for any being who wants to taste the freedom from reclaiming the gift from the original self. Because through all the pain and all the struggles, that became a natural part of living for most of creation. But all of it was but a byproduct of not existing inside your sovereign presence. Everything else ends up feeling like a short-term rental. What do you call those today? Yes, a short-term lease. This, my friends, is what you've been waiting for. It's what all of us have been waiting for. I, Michael, want to thank all of you for choosing to experience this new way of being. In a personal way, I also want to thank those that had the courage to participate in the most recent iSpirit course. Each of you in your own way asked us to not hold back. We don't get that invitation very often. You invited us to trust that you had what it takes to be incredibly honest with yourself. And so we did. And then you started to acknowledge all the games you've been playing, all in the name of avoiding being you. Deep breath, my friends. We see your light here today. And all that are watching can also feel your newfound joy, your new radiance, for having the courage to be radically honest about what's really going on inside you. Thank you for your courage and your service to a love that cannot be contained. Trust me, we've all tried. It cannot. And because of that, there is so much to look forward to in the days ahead when you're not of it. Because the reunion between the doing and being parts created yet another expression called love. This too is incredibly rare. You are witnessing its impact on creation at ground level as a human being. It is simply amazing how much you are now willing to trust in such a free-flowing energy. And because of your courage to stay on this planet, this thing called love is now recognized by all creation as also being real, while at the same time, what do you feel from most of creation when we speak of love? Tune into that and trust what you're feeling here. And those of you that are being extraordinarily honest, do you also not feel that it frightens a lot of beings? Beings who got, like every other being on the planet and in creation, got seduced by the doing part. That part of you that likes to manage and control reality. In your human experience, the management of cause and effect has been perhaps your greatest distraction. It has set in stone certain choices and perceptions that serve this very well-managed reality, which for the most part allows your past to dictate the quality of your experience in this moment, repeated over and over again. But when you allow the being part, the presence of your soul, to also be a part of your life, all those past associations are met with a presence that has no agenda, has no guilt, and has no regrets. It brings to your physical experience a radically different energy, which your physical body will accept as being just as real as anything you brought forward as your past, which in turn helps to release all those physical pain issues that are supported in part by your relationship to cause and effect. So even though many of you find yourself wanting to dance in the streets, celebrating this new way of being you, you won't find many beings on or off of this planet joining you at this time, because they haven't gone through what you discovered for yourself. They have yet to take that deep dive into their own inner reality. They have yet to acknowledge how cause and effect And the perception of separation has defined for them what is real and what is not. They need to be inspired, as many of you were, by a variety of teachers or guides, both on and off of this planet. They need to be inspired. Deep breath, my friends. No matter where you are at, in relationship to integrating the doing and being parts of you, I'm here today to tell you that most of creation is watching you in the same manner that some of you